What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Daily Fix Fantasy and Frames DFS show with the three amigos. I'm your host, Keith Fleming, joined by Kevin, TBD Tompkins, I think is what we were going to say for the nickname, and Joseph the Brain Matz. Was that not what we said? Was it not TBD?
I believe we did. I believe we did.
I mean, I think that is like the bit in and of itself. So I'll take like TBD as the nickname, and it'll be like the metaverse of the show.
I wanted to start the show a little different than most weeks because I think there's one thing we all agree on is we all hate Aaron Rodgers. And it just came out that Cheyenne Woodley said this about her relationship with Aaron Rodgers. He caused her to lose her soul, her happiness, and joy in life as she felt depressed and was at the lowest point in her life because of him. And I feel like the exact same thing every time I talk about Aaron Rodgers. Is that not just a perfect description for him in general?
Isn't this the same woman that like said on the record that she eats clay?
I think so.
Like, isn't that like...
Well, maybe that's when she was with him. So that was like a way of lashing out at herself. Maybe even just like a call for help. Like, I'm eating clay because I just don't care about anything anymore as long as I'm with this man. So maybe that's what was going on.
This week has been so fucking weird between this stuff, between that stuff that Rodgers is, digging for gold, the Netflix special about him that's coming out, the Hawk Tua coin that people are getting rugged about, like, and you know what the sad thing is I've been keeping up on the news about all of that. It's just a weird week, and it's just would be nice to get back to some good old-fashioned American football.
I'm with you. I'm sorry, I had to. I'm not a big fan. I do have to say with Jamie's question here about it being his superpowers. Is it really a superpower if you're playing as bad as Aaron Rodgers has? We're now 3 years without him throwing for 300-plus yards. Also, Jamie, you are entirely too kind. This is an elite panel with some celebrities. Of course, I don't know if he's talking about Roman Reigns or if he's talking about the former Prime Minister of England. So let me know, Jamie, in the comments, which one is the actual celebrity. I hope it's Roman Reigns, personally, even though the machine gun is awesome. And supposedly, this is what my brother-in-law told me. I'm at my sister's house right now, that Churchill sent this picture supposedly to Hitler, like right at the end of the war, and Hitler saw it right before taking his capsule that killed him. Which, if that is true, look at this, Tompkins. Wait a minute now. Hold on now. Are you a celebrity? Did I miss something, Kevin? Are you a celebrity?
I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure. I'm just a humble servant of the fantasy football space, if you ask me. So, I mean, I'm not putting any words in anybody's mouth.
He's like, I will neither confirm or deny this report.
I will let the pool reporters take care of that.
He is a celebrity in my book. I thought you were talking about Roman Reigns, though, Jamie. I'm a little disappointed, but that's okay. He is, he's the big dog, the OTC.
Much appreciated, Jamie.
Absolutely. We are here again. Sorry, I know we missed last week. We were, spending time with the family, etc. But we're back. Going to help you hopefully build some winning multi-entry DraftKings lineups for Week 14. Are you guys sad? I mean, we're getting, near the end. I hate this time of year because it means that, in like 2 months, I'll be talking golf, which I love golf, but that's not my favorite time of the year when I'm talking golf, because that means I'm no longer talking football 24/7.
I mean, look, don't cry because it's over. Just smile that it happened. I mean, 2024, word a day calendar. I'm sure you could put that on there and sell a few of them. But Look, it's been a weird year. I mean, the year of old octogenarian running backs running roughshod, the year of wide receivers getting hurt, and obviously we could do the subset of Saquon Barkley taking everybody's face and rubbing them in the dirt.
Did you see too the stat? I know I spoke to Joe about this. I don't know if I mentioned this on the Waiver Wire show. Saquon Barkley has 3 times the yards before contact, or what they can. It's both I think a stat of before contact and also what they consider a wide open hole, by the offensive line. 21% of his rushing yards this year come from that. The next highest is Joe Mixon at 9%. The next highest in total rushing yards in that situation is Derrick Henry at like a third of it. I think like 140 yards. So yeah, for all the people dunking on the Giants, who you can dunk on the Giants, that's fine. But the Saquon Barkley, if he was in New York, he would not be doing this. People act like Saquon and Henry and these guys would be having these seasons where they're at. Amazingly, if you put like superstar running backs behind great offensive lines with great offenses and coaches, yeah, they're going to feast. So just a reminder, the Eagles' offensive line is still elite. But the injury news, it looks like Malik Neighbors is going to miss. Breece Hall is going to miss. We'll talk, I'm sure, about Braylon Allen. Sauce Gardner's missing, which is kind of big for me, for guys like Tyreek Hill, Tua, etc. Any other big injuries that I'm missing of guys that we know are out before we kind of get into the quarterbacks and go through this position by position?
I mean, I'm taking a look. I know there's a lot of questionables, like just going through.
Bucky Irvin, dear God, don't let this be the week that Bucky doesn't play. I know the Bears, DJ Moore, there's real concern. I think that he hadn't missed a practice all year. I'm hoping that's just Thomas Brown being a player's coach and being like, look, you can take a few days off. You've had back-to-back monster games. Any other big questionable ones that you're like really paying attention to, Kevin?
Cedric Tillman's out, so fire up your Elijah Moore. Still,
I do like that.
Dallas Goedert out. So that should condense things for AJ Brown and for Devonta Smith, who practiced all week, by the way, on that hamstring, so he's all good to go. Other than that, I mean, there's some questionable guys. Roshan Johnson's out as well.
Yeah, Swift's out. Boy, Travis Homer, anyone? 4,000 DK. We may talk about him as well.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure I will give that a nice whiff of derision. If you mention that. So
fair enough. All right, let's move on to the QBs, because that's what we're here. Well, not specifically talk about quarterbacks, but we are here to talk about this week's slate. So for cash, which I know we're doing MME last night, Kev, we really like the value of the guys under 6K. Like that was most of where me and Joe were looking. Like Baker was actually the one quarterback above 6K that we felt like we're okay playing in cash. Tua also to me is intriguing now, knowing Sauce is out. But we were looking really hard at your Russell Wilson versus Cleveland. Caleb Williams is my favorite play. San Francisco. I know it's disgusting, but we need to talk about Will Levis versus a awful Jacksonville secondary. Guy that's now scored 15 points or more, I believe, in 4 straight games. Yep. Where are you kind of starting this week, Kev, in your multi-entry at QB?
Man, like I want to squint and try to make that Josh Allen AK work. It's hard to make that work. Like, even though Josh Allen has, I think, one of the best, for Josh Allen, I think that's one of the best matchups he'll have this season against the Rams, even in SoFi. I do like that and how Buffalo's operating. Obviously, they haven't had much in the passing game. Thank the snow for that. We'll be on a non-grass field, certainly. But yeah, I do like that. But the 8,000 salary is pretty prohibitive there. I'm with you on Caleb Williams, though, because that offense is now pretty condensed in the passing game to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. I think 5,600 with those two, if you want to play like the the stack of all two or both of those wide receivers and Caleb Williams.
How about the rushing floor too? 140 yards since they made the change. It's basically 5 points a game they're just giving you before he does anything else.
Exactly. And it's pretty reasonable too to bring that back with if you wanted to bring in, you could do a contrarian Garendo bring back, which is pretty cheap. You could also do Juwan Jennings, Kittle. Like you can make that work in a lot of ways. And I think that might be, I don't know if that's good. I just worry about that game and possibly, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to blow anybody out. I just want that game to get pushed to like 50 points, and I don't see it. There's not a lot of high over-under totals. There's a lot of 44,
a low slate. Yep.
45, 46. Buffalo, the Rams is the highest one, I think, at 49. But it's a lot of mid-level games as far as like over-under. So, yeah. The under 6K range is pretty good. I do like Caleb. I'm just going through. I like Russell Wilson. That's not a bad price at $5,900 for what he's been giving fantasy managers lately and play people in DFS. Darnold at 6,100 is not bad either. I do certainly like that. And then going down, Cousins, I don't really care. Winston,
Me and you both, bro.
Man, I mean,
God, I wish it was Penix time. God, I wish it was Penix time.
If you want to play the garbage time angle, you could probably do Bryce Young, but it doesn't feel great. Will Levis is not bad either. Aiden O'Connell has looked better.
Because I was going to ask the double stack of O'Connell with Bowers and Myers. Like, you want to talk about condensed offense.
Bring it back with Mike Evans.
Yeah, Bucky Irving. Like, there's a lot of ways that you could, to me, make that very intriguing. Because I actually do think there's going to be a good bit of points scoring that. Like, Vegas's offense, since they've basically just said, look, we're just going to throw it to Myers and Bowers, has been a little frisky. And we know their defense is bad and the Bucs offense is bad. We know that as well. And their offense is really good. So that's actually one of the games I feel pretty good. Joe, has anything really changed since we spoke last night? And kind of where are you looking for the multi-entries for QB?
I will say I've definitely become increasingly intrigued with the O'Connell play. So I'm with you guys there, where you look at that price point and you're not going to find lower. He's coming off of a 20-point game. And I mentioned this to you yesterday. I saw a tweet about how Kansas City's pass defense has not been nearly the same over the last month as it was the first two. But still, it's a defense that over the course of the full season has played pretty well, and he shredded them. Mm-hmm. And Tampa Bay's pass defense especially has been really susceptible this year. And we're assuming Tampa Bay is going to light up the Raiders defense, as most teams do. Again, excluding Kansas City, because this is a weird year. But yeah, I'm super intrigued by that one. Like you said, I think there's pretty obvious guys that you're going to throw in with Aiden O'Connell. You're not really looking past Bowers or Myers. So that keeps things simple there. And then, like I said to you yesterday, I like the Will Levis play. 4 straight weeks with at least 16 points. 3 of the 4, he had multiple touchdown passes. Like you said, we haven't seen as much running as we maybe would have anticipated. He had 40 yards. 41 against the Chargers, and that's really the only game post the first 2 weeks of the season where he's been particularly notable running the ball. And he has 0 rushing touchdowns. But no, he's certainly a guy capable of doing that. And then Jacksonville is obviously just horrific on defense. This is the worst pass defense by yards, tied for the worst in touchdowns allowed. And that's per game. So that's not anything where someone didn't have a bye or whatever. And yeah, dead last in DVOA. So even if we're going advanced stats, they are the worst. Most points allowed to outside wide receivers. So, and then we have the Calvin Ridley revenge game coming up. And really, Ridley's been open a lot over the last few weeks, and he hasn't had the huge game so much, in part because you're counting on Will Levis to deliver an accurate football. So that is the big risk there. But yeah, you're talking about a guy who also is better against man defense, and the Jags run a lot of man defense. So I think
most in the NFL.
Yeah, so Ridley is super interesting to me in the combo there. And then likewise, Westbrook-Akine, the touchdown machine, where it's like I think 40% of his catches this year are
Kevin,
touchdowns.
what'd you call him Tuesday? The hyphenated
our
king.
hyphenated king. Yeah.
Yeah, which he's earned. So, and both of those guys, that's 4,700 to pair with the quarterback who costs you 5,000. So yeah, I think all three of those guys, like you said, the under 6, I really like the Caleb Williams play, this play, and the O'Connell play are all super enticing because, if I go up to Darnold at 6,100, I like the fact, obviously, he's going against a team that doesn't rush the passer, and I'm mostly afraid of Darnold when he gets rattled. But, am I going to do Addison? I guess Hawkinson maybe is an interesting play, but you're always worried that unless you put Justin Jefferson in your lineup, you're going to miss out on a huge chunk of what's going on.
I really like. I told you I love Hawkinson this week.
I like that one too.
I'm okay with doing the Darnold Hawkinson stack if that's what you want to do is play Darnold.
And then obviously I like Mayfield, and like we said yesterday, at some point we always assume the Mike Evans blow up game is coming. And last week was good, but I don't think we would count that as the full Mike Evans explosion experience. So
nope.
Again. Those guys are kind of safer plays, but if we're trying to go huge entries, I want to spend money elsewhere this week. So I'm looking at the Caleb, Levis, O'Connell trio right there to put in most of my lineups.
You know what's funny about the we talk, the Jaguars are, one of the most, it's got to be historical, like DVA, like one of the worst of all time, like since they've been tracking it. Just looking at like EPA numbers. Okay, so they gave it up the most second most pass yards. They've given up the second highest completion percentage. They've also given up the most touchdown passes. They are 32nd in EPA per pass attempt on defense. The 31st team, Jacksonville, is literally doubly worse than the Carolina Panthers in EPA per pass attempt.
And they're actually better. Joe was bringing this up. I didn't realize this because they don't rank well, obviously, versus it. But DVOA-wise, they're not as bad as you think versus the run. So, literally, it just
a pure pass funnel.
Yeah. You just want to throw on them. So, is it, scary, obviously, to be like, Will Levis, I'm all in. Put it this way, guys. I was touting him for cash last night. That's where we're at. That's how bad I think this Jacksonville pass defense is. And I just, my only concern is, can Mac Jones and the Jags offense score enough to where they don't get up, say big. And I guess, what makes me feel a little bit better was if you watch that Commanders game, it didn't matter who was in the game, whether it was Chris Rodriguez, McNichols, whatever. Washington just kept scoring and moving the ball. So I do think that there's a chance for that.
Also, by the way, 32nd in pressure rate too. The Jaguars are.
Oh, the Falcons are not dead last anymore?
Nope. Not according to ESPN.
How about that, man?
It is an achievement for you guys.
Pass that
out of the basement.
Clear up, put on a happy face. How about that? I guess it was that big 3 sacks last week.
But before we move on the QBs, I did just get curious about, and so I'm assuming my quick math is correct here. The biggest gaps between passing defense DVOA and rushing defense DVOA, the Jags are at 48% difference in efficiency for the opposing offense, whether they're passing versus rushing the ball. The only other team, based on my quick look through, that was over 30% in favor of the pass is Tampa Bay.
Oh, I thought
so. Those are the two biggest pass defense funnels.
Oh, the other way around. Are the Bears on that list the other way around? We're very good versus the pass, not so much against the run.
Right. So those are the two teams that you want to be passing against them. So. Well, that bodes well for what we're talking about here.
We're so smart. That's what I love. I love it when we make we just keep coming with more stuff that makes us even smarter than we thought we were. All right, the running back situation this week is just bonkers. So, Kevin, let me ask you this, because you're really good at kind of, convincing me that, even if a guy's high on, or you have two guys high on, sometimes playing them, particularly when they're expensive or stacking a certain way, is a way to build really successful lineups for multi-entry. I think we are at that with Barkley and Kamara, who both have dream matchups. It's going to cost you a freaking fortune. I get that. They're both ridiculously high on. I think, what'd you say last night, Joe? Kamara was like 30-something% and Barkley was like 20-something%. But I don't think too many people are going to have the cojones to play both of them at 17K. Well, if you're playing Levis, say with Westbrook Ikini or, with Ridley, and you want to play a couple of cheap, wide receiver options, I do think you can make it happen. And just the matchups are just dreams. Barkley, over 1,000 rushing yards the last 7 games, it's just mind-boggling. 8 rushing touchdowns.
Is that good?
I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And then the Kamara thing is so much bigger because, in case you didn't notice, Rico Dowdle has not been able to really run on anybody this year. On the Giants Thursday, especially Dexter Lawrence went out.
And there was turkey on the line.
He all of a sudden was running very well.
No
Taysom Hill's not playing, so there's not that touchdown vulture in the red zone, which is huge. And I think that the Saints are going to get Dexter Lawrence is to the Giants defense what Andrew Thomas was to the Giants offense. It's just the floodgates have opened. And I do think there's a lot of value in MME because obviously in cash, it's too risky. But in MME, I'm going to try to build some lineups with both of those backs in my lineups.
Yeah, that's very fair. Because it is a decimated week. Look at all the scarlet letters we have across. And my favorite running back isn't even on the main slate. That's Chase Brown. If Chase Brown were on this main slate, he would be you would need a court order to get me away from that. So, Barkley and Kamara together, I think it's a good pairing. You can make it work. There's enough cheap players that you could kind of finagle that and make that work there. But I mean, you just have to be you have to do some cost analysis with that too, because even a Bijan Robinson is $1,500 cheaper than Barkley, and Barkley's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but even that's $500 cheaper than Kamara, and you have to really weigh that. I mean, Kamara full PPR site, so that's something you have to weigh on that too. But yeah, the matchups are so good that Barkley and Kamara, and then being able to fit a logical lineup around that is going to differentiate you from the field, especially in multi-entry where Barkley is going to be well rostered. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to go look at the projected ownership right now. Kamara is 36% right now. Barkley is 4th at 16.9.
Oh, he's going down. Wow.
17%. So, it's the price.
Yeah, no,
because,
I'm with you. It's
because DraftKings
right there yesterday, and Barkley was actually above 20% in second, so he's actually dropped in the last 24 hours.
And it's DraftKings too, because DraftKings will pump up prices, but rarely do you ever see prices go down. On a lot of those, you see somebody go for 7 carries for 2 yards, basically the Javonte Williams legacy game, 7 carries for 2 yards. They might go down $100. You just don't see them go down. They're just going to keep going up and up and up, and it's going to be more prohibitive. Barkley, I mean, $9,000. I mean, we're not quite the CMC 10K territory, which is a bargain in and of itself. I would certainly say.
Last year we had, because Dave Eddy, taught me this, and he was right. Ultimately in cash, that even when CMC was above 9K, it was death, taxes, and playing CMC in cash anytime he had a good matchup, right? And it's Barkley 9K versus literally the worst defense in the NFL. Because a reminder, Carolina allows the most rushing yards by almost 20 yards more per game than any other defense to running backs. They allow the most rushing touchdowns per game to opposing running backs, and they allow the 5th most yards per attempt. So that's a smash. How concerned are you guys about Bucky Irving with, just the injury concerns and everything? That's a game that obviously it could get out of hand. That could mean less. But, I also kind of wonder, last week they rode him to where I think I'm going to have to play him in a good bit of lineups if he's scheduled to go, because if the Raiders can make it a game, like all of a sudden the Bucs have said, okay, this is our best bet. We're giving it to him. And over the last month, only Jamar Chase and Saquon Barkley are averaging more total yards of offense than Bucky Irving per game at 141. What I love to see is only Saquon Barkley has more yards after contact at or past the line of scrimmage than Bucky Irving, and that's by only 4 yards, and that's on 40 less attempts for Bucky Irving. This guy is just a phenom. Again, I want to give kudos to Kevin, who, thanks to doing the draft show with him and Stacey and all those guys and him pumping up Bucky, by midsummer, I had joined the Bucky train, and I have him everywhere, and it has been such a blessing, including Scott Fishbowl, that like, this dude he's here. It's now. He's the better back. Like, obviously there's the concerns, but you feel pretty good, right? Like that if they're saying he's going to play, he gutted it through last week. The only concern I would have is if they, obviously blow the Raiders out, then you'd have the situation. But the Bucs defense is so bad. I think the Raiders are going to be able to stay in it.
Yeah. Like the one thing that's concerning about that to me is because it's the injury, it's a back and hip. Like that's two not great things for a running back. I mean, just having one of those is bad enough. I mean, we've seen how much for a wide receiver, how much a back injury has just sapped Michael Pittman for a good month and a half. And now he's just starting to it feels like he's finally getting over it. Certainly don't know like the severity. Obviously he's questionable. So,
right.
But Sean Tucker was a healthy scratch last week too. So I feel like he's probably going to be active there as kind of like a fail safe if Bucky goes and maybe so I think I would maybe go away from Irving, but that's where like the sharp people will still take Irving, get him at a ownership discount and probably get him 10% or higher, more than he would typically be after a game where he had 150 yards. So I think that's kind of where you can be sharp and play it that way. Conventional kind of wisdom would say maybe going away from that and finding a different kind of avenue to take. You could also take Rachaad White, who's still involved. It's not like he's not involved. He was over 50% on routes and snaps last week, was still very efficient. I think he was 11 for 74, something like that. He had over 70 yards rushing.
He had a good game. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's plenty involved in the offense. And I think that might be a pretty good pivot where Rachaad White's going to not be owned at all.
Kyren Williams this week, another guy I want to talk about. He feels like he's underpriced. Now, the concern obviously is Buffalo. Like, are they going to route them? And if they get up, that's going to be the issue. But we know that if the Rams want to win this game, and this is a must-win game for the Rams, what's the easiest way to beat the Bills is to run the ball. I think that if the game stays close, there's potential for Kyren to have a monster game. The issue is obviously if it doesn't go, he's just not catching passes, which is a real problem. And again, if I'm going to pay, what is it, 7,300, right? I think for Kyren, yeah, I'm going to just pay the 700 more and take Kamara, and I'll try to differentiate my lineup elsewhere. But Joe, how do you feel about Kyren this week?
I am intrigued because I think the Rams have a reasonable chance to make this a game. And then, like you said, this is the way you traditionally attack Buffalo. But yeah, the two big problems.
Sorry, I went Baby Yoda there for a second when you said this is the way. I'm sorry.
But the two big problems is, like you said, number one, we're just not seeing anything remotely consistent receiving wise. Well, I guess the one consistency lately has just been not seeing receptions for Kyren Williams. And the other thing is, since they've gotten both their receivers back, their passing in goal-to-go situations has gone from 50% those first 7 weeks to 67%. So it's just much harder for touchdowns to come by, where he scored the last 2 weeks, but that was after a 4-week drought, where through the first 6 games, he scored a touchdown in every single game and had 2 multi-touchdown games running the ball. So, we're seeing less opportunities at the goal line, We're not seeing the receiving. So that does make it kind of hard to spend that 7,300 on him when, if I just bump up again, even if we're afraid to spend 9,000 on Saquon, and I definitely see both arguments there. Like, to me, Kamara's 700 more, and he's against the Giants team who lost to the one guy who really plugs pretty much every hole in the front line. Bobby Okereke is out, so that's the best linebacker on the Giants is also out. And this is a team that was already bottom 10 in receptions and yardage allowed in the receiving game to running backs.
Yep.
So I'd rather spend $700 on a guy who is the focal point in the offense. And I hadn't even thought before about, Taysom Hill's out.
Yep.
So if I'm spending up, I'm going there. If I'm spending down, I'm probably still going to ride with Bucky if he's playing. And if Bucky's not playing, then I'm definitely putting Rachaad White in, and I'm probably putting Sean Tucker in a number of lineups as well. And then we've got Garendo, which
what is Tucker this
probably
week?
saying his name wrong, but
Tucker's probably sub 4,500.
He's 4,300.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that.
So if you're saying the guy who we've seen get heavily involved when one of those guys is out before, and he costs 4,300. Again, a guy who had 136 yards and 14 carries in a game.
He's not chopped liver. He's
got the Saints. Yeah, he's been.
Which again, if you were bullish at all on the Giants staying in that game, Tyrone Tracy is obviously interesting against an awful Saints defense against running backs. But I'm not going with Kyron this week, even though he had a lot of parts of that matchup make it sound good. But I would just rather spend up and be more sure or go down.
Garendo or Braylon Allen? Who would you rather have of the backups?
Garendo.
Yeah, Garendo for me. I mean,
despite that $400 more.
Yeah, I mean, like I went over with you yesterday. Like, you look through a lot of the metrics, and it's super, smaller sample size. Obviously, I think it's like just over 40 carries in the year, but super similar numbers to Jordan Mason for Garendo. Yeah. So, if you're telling me that's what we can get out of him at 5,400, then I'm over the moon because Mason was a running back one most weeks. Again, anytime you give me a Shanahan running back under 6K, I'm throwing that guy into a bunch of lineups.
Again, I just want to mention I brought his name up on the waiver wire show, and because it's MME, it's a safe space. Tank Bigsby for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a Titans defense that over the last 3 weeks is giving up almost 140 yards per game. As high as I am on Will Levis, it's a team that's averaging 20 points per game over the last month. There is a chance if Jacksonville stays in it, this could be a monster game for Bigsby. Now, the risk, obviously, they get down, they get in passing situations, it's over. Like, he's not going to be on the field. He's not, he's just not going to play. But I still believe in that dude's talent. And like some of the Jags' best games this year, it's been a really rough season, have been the games that they just fed Tank Bigsby. So I did want to mention him as somebody who I think for MME is very interesting because we know he's going to be long. Nobody's going to want any, Jags backs probably because it's been such a shit show with, how much they're really using all three of them. But I do kind of like him this week if they can keep it close.
I'm just not a fan. Like the Tennessee Tennessee is like the big cone of influence where it seems like they are a giant vortex and will bring like teams down to their level in terms of sapping any fantasy value going against them.
Any joy.
They're a thief of joy. They're a thief of talent. They're a thief of a lot of things. But they will not steal my hard-earned DraftKings dollars that everybody gets.
As someone who's a little bullish on, again, Tennessee's offense in this game, anything game where I'm bullish on Tennessee's offense, that either means I think they're going to get absolutely blown out or I think they're going to be in the lead. And
right. The game script thing, I mean, Bigsby is the one that would be game scripted out, if anything.
Right. So that would be my major concern there. Obviously, if you're
I'm obviously not doing that with Levis and
right. You're not doing any sort of combo.
But I'm talking about like you go like Aiden O'Connell or whatever, and you're looking for a back in that 5K range. I don't hate it.
Right.
Travis Homer. If we get to the point where, because I believe he's 4K. It's the bottom of the barrel. If Roschon, is out. If Swift is ruled out, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to in MME put him in some lineups. When you can get him back for 4K, San Francisco has had real issues with running backs at times this season. And I do think Chicago obviously would throw more. They've been throwing more in general since Thomas Brown has, kind of took over the play calling duties. But when you get a 4K running back like that, then you can do a lot of different things, including potentially play those two backs I was talking about off the top, Barkley and Kamara, and still get a pretty expensive wide receiver in your lineup.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're talking about a guy at 4K who could end up being the lead back in a game that, I always like going with the team who has the new coach. I think that often ends up with at least the 1 week bump. So you're telling me I get a lead back maybe for 4K in the interim bump game? I'll take it. I'm in.
Yeah, it's 4K. It's true. I don't know. I don't want to be the guy to like totally throw cold water on it. I just
throw.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can't. I don't know if I can see it, but at 4K, the price is certainly well worth like taking a stab for everything else that can fit in. So like from a structural standpoint, I'm totally with it.
And remember, Kevin, we're family now. We spend at least 2 hours each week on shows together. That doesn't include the text chains, which that's probably another 2 hours. You can shit.
There's good people on both sides.
You can shit on my takes anytime you want, buddy. I promise you, I won't take it personally. And not only that, when you do, it makes me reconsider it, which is usually a good thing. So, because if you think something's really bad, I don't know if I want to be too high on anything. But any other thoughts on running backs? You guys want to move on to the wide receivers?
Let's do it.
Nothing really jumps out to me, like just going through. Yeah, I'm ready to go to wide receivers.
Interesting week, man, because I mean, obviously, Jefferson, versus the Falcons. The Falcons just allow so many receptions. I know they play a ton of zone, and typically Jefferson obviously is much better versus man, but he's Justin Jefferson. He's good versus everything. I do think, though, that the Falcons are going to try to take him away. Like, I think that's going to be their number one goal because we are still pretty good versus the run. And they're going to, say, hey, Jordan Addison or Jalen Naylor or TJ Hawkinson. That's why when we get tight end, I'm big on Hawkinson. Ironically, for me, like if Pickens was healthy, I'd have a lot of Pickens. Tyreek Hill is very intriguing to me, knowing that Sauce is out, how much man the Jets run, for MME. I do like Tyreek now becomes kind of an intriguing guy in MME, but I asked last night, and let me ask you, Kevin, because I always worry with Falcons, is this a little bit of homerism, whatever. Like Drake London at 6,400 coming off a 16-target game where he had a 50% first read target share versus the dead last team in wide receivers versus points, and he's 6,400. Why are we not like smash starting that? Because neither me and Joe, that was our, neither one of us, that was the inclination in cash, and it's the same thing in MME. Like, what am I missing here?
Like, that legit feels wrong.
Right?
Like, there's some things that, like, I don't know, DraftKings does a pretty good job of like making sure you can't game the system. Like 6,400 for that kind of wide receiver in a game where that has blow up potential because Minnesota has played down to their opponents, and I know it's Kirk Cousins, and I think that in the right kind of script that Minnesota defense completely eats him alive, but I think there's the other side of that where I think Cousins is upright enough to where Drake London could matter volume wise. Maybe the downfield stuff won't be there as much, but I could see a 10 catch, 85-yard game, possibly a touchdown, something like that, where maybe they just take everything away deep and condense the field. For those guys, I mean, Pitts hasn't mattered in weeks. Darnell Mooney's a bit, coin flippy right now. Ray McCloud is an extension of the run game. Yeah, I think Drake London is kind of where it's at right now, and I think that he's 6,400 is a great price for that skill set and what we can expect out of that game, because that game of all the games, and I would maybe throw the only other one outside of Buffalo Rams, I would say is Arizona Seattle, but that could go sideways too. Of those games that like, okay, this could get to like 34-31.
That makes me feel good, and I'm going to be changing cash lineups as soon as we end this show, because I was like, why? Like, I didn't want to be a homer, right? But I'm going, this is insane. Why is he 6,400? Like, I don't understand. He's coming off a 16-target game where 50% of the first reads went to him, and it's in a dome. It's just like everything you want.
I would say too. That's where I'm pivoting off of Pickens, because that's yesterday. That's the guy I was talking up, where I said I loved the Pickens play this week. But as soon as you talk about a hamstring, that's that's one of those ones that really scares me off of guys. So yeah,
you pump the brakes right there.
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah, London against Minnesota. Again, Minnesota's fun because they're only 3 teams have given up more yardage to number 1 receivers. Only 3 teams have given up more yardage to number 2s, and they're dead last in yardage allowed to number 3s.
Ooh, right week.
So there's always options all across the board. But yeah, the guy that we can obviously count on the most is the guy who has 36 targets over the last 3 weeks. And at 6,400, yeah, like you said, it's a crazy reasonable price for a number 1 guy against the team dead last. And unsurprisingly, after I just named off what they give up to every wide receiver, dead last in points to wide receivers. So that's probably my pivot play there.
The season appears to be plummeting for my Atlanta Falcons. It's like the Titanic. But the one good thing is, I told everybody, Drake London is that dude. And Kevin made me feel very good. Because, again, you worry about homerism. And all summer, he was right there with me going, this guy is the perfect wide receiver. And now he's in an offense where he's going to be on the field all the time and get targeted. And that's exactly – and I actually think it's going to be an upgrade whenever Penix does get in there for London.
Yeah, and selfishly, my Scott Fishbowl team could use it because I did have to play Jaden Reed last night. Yeah,
the Bob
brother, without Nico Collins, without Zay Flowers, modern problems require modern solutions. So we had to throw Jaden Reed in there.
We got Bowers and McBride, bro. We're going to be okay.
I do. Yes. Bowers, McBride. I had to throw Waddle in as well.
I did too. This is the first week I've played him in a month.
But, not to sidetrack this, but I have Will Levis and Aiden O'Connell. I did just pick up Aiden O'Connell for 12 American Scott Fishbowl.
How do y'all have QBs out there? There is no QBs in our league. Like, I tried to just pick up another one. All I could get was Mac Jones. That was the only QB available.
But I'm weighing do I want to play Jalen Waddle or do I want to play Aiden O'Connell? And I think I'm leaning toward Aiden O'Connell after this.
I like O'Connell this week. I really do.
I mean, I might be starting him season long this week. So
the 5K range to me is ridiculous. Real quickly, DJ Moore too. With him being banged up, he would be an automatic start for me with what we've seen. Hey, Wendy. With what we've seen recently, his first retarget share, by the way, number 1 in the NFL last week, over 60%. He is just like Thomas Brown, I remember, was at one time a scout corner on Carolina when DJ Moore was a wide receiver. So no surprise, one of the first things he did when he took over Chicago's play calling is like, hey, we need to get that dude the ball. And he's been feasting. The injury concerns me. That's got me pivoting more to Allen. But I love this range, like Ridley. Myers, like there's a lot of great statistics about when the Bucs blitz more than any team in the NFL. Keenan Allen is another guy. Again, Kevin was talking about how condensed, now the Chicago offense is, where it's basically just they're throwing the ball to 4 dudes and they're throwing it like 40 times a game. So that's good there. I like all those guys. Are y'all kind of Calvin Ridley, another guy I forgot to mention that I know, again, this is relying on Levis, but Jacksonville's so bad versus number 1 wide receivers. They play man more than any team in the league. And, hey, Calvin Ridley is still one of the best wide receivers versus man, just period. So, just take your pick from this range. For me, I like all kinds of combos.
Yeah. I mean, you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just on the Ridley thing, his target rate jumps 11 or jumps 10% going from zone to man, which again, Jags running man like crazy. His fantasy points per route run nearly doubles. And then the other guy that I'm really liking in the higher 5K range is Khalil Shakir, where
that's right. I forgot about
his
him.
target rate jumps over 11% going from man to zone. Rams are a top 5 zone team. His yards per route run jumps by over 0.7 yards per route run. So he becomes the guy against zone. They're playing a ton of zone. Ridley, the opposite. Kills man, playing a team that plays a ton of man. So those two guys are very high on my radar. And yeah, Myers too, also very good against cover 3, which the Bucks run a ton of cover 3.
And it's funny that we haven't talked about the guy who went off for 235 yards last week too.
That's true.
Judy.
With Tillman out now, I mean, the Browns can support 4 wide receivers, 4 pass catchers.
Does he play in the slot though a lot? Because that's the one thing I'd wonder. Because you would think I would assume that's who Porter is going to be on most of the game is Jerry Jeudy, right?
Jeudy, let me look and see. He's been playing like primarily 64 to 70% out wide.
That's
so
still
he mixes
30%.
in.
I mean, that's still though a good amount of snaps in the slot, right? Yeah.
And the fact that he put up that which was a top 5 game in terms of wide receiver yardage in the last decade.
He did a lot of Surtain. You're right. I forgot.
But was 3rd in targets on a 235-yard game. Dude was
I did not know that.
Wait, he was 3rd in targets in the game?
Behind Elijah Moore and Njoku, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I heard today on I think it was the Ringer Fantasy podcast where they said since Jameis took over, I want to say they said he was like, I can't remember if it was first or he's at least top 5 in like yardage since Jameis took over. Their bye week was in that time period. So there's teams that have played an extra game, and he is a top 5 receiver in yardage since Jameis took over. Obviously,
Jameis has made 4 pass catchers on the Browns fantasy relevant.
Right. Well, how bad is Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
We saw this with Flacco.
You're right. I forgot.
That's where you go. Guys, it's like no one views these guys as starters anymore, and they come in, and the offense comes to life, and it's like I think we know what the problem is.
Yeah, I'm about to trade Elijah Moore for a 2nd rounder in Dynasty.
There you go.
Do we want to talk? Because I do like Moore a lot this week with Tillman out. He's 4,800. He's
you pull my arm on that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 4,800. Come on, that might be the best like points per dollar play.
Exactly, especially volume, which we talk about all the time. We're not going to talk about the hyphenated king. We did enough of that Tuesday and last night. We know
there is the other hyphenated king though.
Valdez.
Well, I don't know if he's a king. He's like court jester.
And I asked Joe,
he's also been a touchdown machine, 4 touchdowns and 7 receptions the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, so. He's been getting buried in the papers.
That's ridiculous.
The Nick Westbrook-Akine, is burying everybody else's lead.
So the reason I have been pumping him up in recent weeks is because I went back and looked when Derek Carr starts for the Saints this year.
By the way, this must hurt you to talk about the Saints.
It does. You know that. That's what I always tell people. If I'm pumping up a Saint, like I really believe in them.
Like this might be like, do I have to call like the authority? Like, do I have to call an ambulance, or are you in danger?
Is there somebody?
Blink twice. Blink once if you're okay.
Oh, you made me choke. Since when Carr is a QB, the Saints have a touchdown of 40 yards or more passing touchdown. I believe now it's in 9 of 10 games. And early in the season, right, that was Shaheed. That was Olave. There was other people that was going to be that option. It's basically just been MVS, getting these deep shots since they made the change. And again, now that Taysom Hill is out, which it's crazy to think that not only does that help Kamara, that now also helps the pass catchers, but that's where we're at. My only concern about the Saints in general is like the offense has not been good without Taysom Hill this year. Like the on-off is insane. Now, a lot of that also coincides with Carr being out, which that's why I'm like, I don't know if it's that big of a deal. We'll find out, right? Like this week versus a bad Giants D. No offense, Joe.
Especially with Dex out.
The Carolina guys, because I do think that, Bryce has been really good. The Eagles don't get a ton of pressure. he is like done better throwing into tight windows. There's definitely like value there. I just can't figure out, like, do you go back with Thielen? I said this last night. 9 of his last 21 or 9 of the 21 games he's played with Bryce Young, he scored 20 or more points. So for MME, I guess that's the guy that probably should be most willing to risk. Kevin made the point on Tuesday that you get the benefit of him being in the slot and 3 receiver sets. He's going to move to the outside, for 2 receivers. So, he's on the field all the time. But I'm also intrigued by, like, Leggett. You could convince me. Coker, has he been ruled out? What's the deal with him right now? Did they say?
I think he's if he's not doubtful.
I think it is doubtful, if I remember right.
So I hate to bring his name up again, but
David Moore
is getting a crap ton of targets for whatever reason in this offense and getting at least 3-4 catches. Now, he didn't have the upside, so really for MME, but like for cash now, to me, he is a consideration again, especially if you think Carolina's going to be down. Is there any other guys? Like, what about like Wan'Dale Robinson, Joe, versus New Orleans? Do you think they're going to be down? Sounds like no neighbors. Like,
yeah, I mean, no neighbors kind of really opens it up for both Robinson and Slayton.
That's what I was going to say. The next question was
Slayton was going to be the guy I was going to mention too.
That's the guy to me that stands out a little more because he's $500 cheaper.
Again, we big playability, right?
Right. We didn't get to see it so much last week, but I think of the 3 quarterbacks, well, no longer 3 quarterbacks, but the 3 quarterbacks who were on this roster, I think Drew Lock is the one who's most willing to throw downfield, and he won't have Micah Parsons chasing after him this week. So yeah, if you're telling me Neighbors is out, and I mean, Neighbors didn't play that Seattle game. That was Slayton's big game, and that was against a good secondary on the road, where I thought it was kind of the one game where Daniel Jones hit anything downfield. So,
and to be official, he has not been ruled out, but everything I read today said that it's looking very unlikely that he plays.
Yeah,
it's
4,300 in a game where again, I'm all in on Kamara. I think they're going to toast the Giants defense without 2 of its 3 best players. Doubtful. So yeah, I think they're going to be down. I think they're going to have to throw, and Slayton's the downfield guy here. I mean, unless you want to take the minimum bet on Hyatt, which has not paid off at all this year. So I'm not willing to do that myself. So give me Slayton.
Kevin, did you see the name that I did? I'm glad you scrolled down at 3,300 that we definitely need to mention because he just seems to make a big play in this offense now every week.
I just want to rail on. I was scrolling down on my spreadsheet. I wanted to rail on Jalen Hyatt for
go right ahead. Yeah, absolutely. He's a Tennessee volunteer. Fuck him.
Literally among all tight ends and wide receivers with at least 100 routes run this year, the second lowest yards per route run behind Gerald Everett. 0.31 yards per route run for Jalen Hyatt.
Please don't go back and look to 2 years ago when Keith Fleming, after he had those 2 big games or whatever, was saying, just this Hyatt Danny Dimes connection is going to be something. Yeah, there's tape of that out there somewhere. Please don't find it, people. But I did want to mention Calvin Austin. I didn't know he was 3,300. He's now cleared that he's going to play. Dude is just making a lot of big plays. And for MME, where especially in this range, you're looking for somebody who can, do a lot with a little. That is literally Calvin Austin. This Cleveland team has been giving up a ton. Do I need to remind you what Marvin Mims did to them, last week? And a lot of other of these speedy receivers have really been torching this defense. I think that's very interesting. Any other receivers you guys, want to mention or talk about or whatever before we get on to the tight ends?
I mean, Pickens being at least questionable certainly gets out. Austin had his lowest snap percentage, his lowest routes of the season last week. He only ran 14 routes last week, which was concerning, and still scored that touchdown. So with Pickens out, if Pickens is out, it's probably like Van Jefferson, 100% routes. I'm not clicking that button. But
if Pickens is out, does that mean Mike Williams is somebody that you would even consider, or would it just be Van Jefferson?
I think it's too dangerous to even touch.
Okay, even in MMA,
Calvin Austin would be like if you're really itching to play a Steeler,
right? But
I'm not touching Van Jefferson. I'm not touching Mike. I mean, Mike Williams. I don't even know if the guy's going to run more than 10 rounds. That's the thing.
That's fair.
Other than that, Yeah, let me take a look here. There's nobody that Sterling Shepard for like the target based upside, I suppose, at 4K. There was somebody I was looking at. Oh, Juwan Jennings is going to get completely Jalen Johnson. So as much as I would love to play him at 5,200.
So you think, okay, even if because does Johnson fall? Is he one of the guys that he follows, or is it just on the outside?
I don't think he follows completely. I think he's like Surtain, where Surtain he'll follow to an extent, but I don't think he's like completely like locked onto a person, the way like a Jair Alexander would be. But yeah, plus, I mean, Chicago,
really good pass defense. Yeah, no, for sure.
No thanks. Other than that, nothing else jumps out at me.
Do we need the one other guy I mentioned real quick, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
JSN is the other one to me that feels underpriced. 6,300. Only saw 7 targets. So, why, I don't know, versus Arizona. 2 weeks ago, he turned him into 6 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. He's been so efficient. They, for whatever reason, continue to go to Metcalf. I just think Arizona's defense is legit. They've been getting pressure, and that always screams to me JSN, right? Because they've been going back and forth of, is he the down the field receiver? Is he the short field? Well, we know Metcalf is not the in close receiver. So I just think that could end up being a game where JSN should have a floor of like at least 5-6 catches, but he also has the ability to make big plays.
Right. I'm trying to share a window. Here we go. Because I have JSN pulled up. This is my spreadsheet that I have for tracking a lot of this stuff, and just this is JSN, like his ADOTs is just,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, like it's been literally all over the place. Like you want that, but like going from 20 to 8 to 1 to 15, like then that's the thing with JSN is you don't know what role he's going to play every week. Granted, the target upside is like awesome for him, but I think that kind of play has to play a role, even with like DK Metcalf, certainly questionable there, and he hasn't practiced. It's tough to peg JSN as far as what you can get from him weekly.
It's great stuff, Kev. All right, tight ends. Then we'll build a lineup. Then we'll get out of here. Obviously, Bowers. All you have to know is just that. I said this to Joe.
Are there other tight ends other than Bowers?
Right. But I mean, seriously, I asked Joe this last night. $6,500, running back or wide receiver. Where are you getting a guy with this kind of volume? With a very good matchup.
Right. The only guy in that range who we could make that argument is Drake London, who we said we all
or Bucky Irving would be the other, like the one back. He's actually $100 more, right? Like, so you're still saving $100 with Bowers. To me, and I think people will actually be a little bit off of him because he's 6,500. Like we see this a lot of times with tight ends. I'm telling you, don't do it. Like if you have it and you're going to spend 6,500 on a wide receiver. Again, other than London would be the one guy that I'm like, okay, I get that, save $100, play him, but play Bowers. Especially, again, his numbers actually go up versus the blitz, and Tampa blitzes more than any team in the NFL. McBride, Kevin, also coming off a monster game versus Seattle 2 weeks ago.
We need an economic stimulus package to get Trey McBride a touchdown.
You telling me?
Absolutely.
What was it? How many receptions does he have now in the year, Kevin?
Too many. McBride,
73.
73. Yeah. He has 0 touchdown or 1 touchdown. I'm sorry, I forgot. Nick Westbrook-Akini has 20 receptions and he has 8. Go for it. Kev said it was a weird year. There you go. That's
every single fantasy football podcast under the sun for the next 9 months. We'll talk about Trey McBride touchdown regression.
Yeah,
like that will be
100%.
like we're gonna do that. The same thing we did with Cole Kmet with Trey McBride in 2025.
Which is so not fair.
Except he's a lot better than Cole
That's
Kmet.
What I was gonna say.
Oh, he's
so not fair. This guy is like legit, other than Bowers, like, and even with Bowers, you can make an argument. McBride is also, like the alpha tight end in the NFL, and there he is. So for me, again, because I'm gonna either play Bowers or McBride, like I just probably will. Then you have to get way down there. I can like a lot of other people, but TJ Hawkinson at 4,300 for me. I know this Falcons team. I really do. You know, I know technically they're 12th and all this. Don't forget, Jake Ferguson, 7 for 71 versus them. Cade Otton had 12 receptions in 2 games versus this Falcons team. I could see Hawkinson having like 8, 9 receptions easy versus this Falcons team this week if they throw a lot, because we're good versus the run.
Yeah, I like it. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm there too. I do also like Njoku a lot. Just because, you know, for the same reasons we've been talking about
Tillman, yeah,
and more, just because we know he's such a vital part of this offense, and maybe he's more of a short area. If Jameis Winston has to get balls off, having to wait for a Jerry Jeudy route or Elijah Moore route on the outside might not be as fruitful as finding David Njoku somewhere in the middle. So that could be a big value game, and as well as like Cleveland Pittsburgh has always been like, if you have that matchup in your mind as like a 21-16 slugfest.
No, they scored like 50 points in the snow or whatever. Just
this game is game is probably gonna get squirrely. Where
the AFC North is not what it used to be. That's what I keep telling people. Like, it's just
they call what do they call it? Like the black and blue or the black and bruised or whatever they call it.
Yeah, it ain't that no more. No, it's just like the SEC.
It's like it might as well be the freaking Big 12.
Or no, I mean, but that's what the SEC is now. Everybody's like, oh, and there still is a lot of good defense. That's not what I mean, but most big matchups in the SEC now are 35-31, right? Like it's just football's changed. Let me ask you a question, Kev, because Joe asked me this last night, and I thought it was a great question. If Bucky Irvin is ruled out, do you like Cade Otton a lot this week?
I don't think that really moves the needle for me on Otton.
Okay.
Just because he's been just the way that
once Evans came back, right? Like
Evans came back, but the fact that they're really into that 2-man running game, and that's really knocked Otton down a couple pegs as far as like priority of what we need to get going on offense. So, I mean, and they're going to Shepard a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Otton doesn't feel like as much of a priority in this offense, and that's we're seeing it now. And people, you know, that were expecting the midseason Otton when Godwin and Evans were out are like feeling it now. They're kind of feeling what they were feeling with Tucker Kraft when he was not getting all those touchdowns.
Yep.
Like it just feels very empty and hollow, and it's hard to find a tight end these days.
I was going to say that's the tight end position outside of like that handful of guys.
Right. They're left outside holding the bag.
They need touchdowns. I mean, that's what most of them are. So again, my thing to Joe is I don't hate it. It's just, I would rather pay 100 less and play TJ Hawkinson if I'm going to be in that price range. 2 cheap guys that I like, then you can guys, if you got any others you want to mention, then we'll build a lineup or two and we'll get out of here. I really do like Grant Calcaterra. However you say his name, I'm a country.
I don't know which one of us is right.
I mean, he's been like very serviceable, especially for that price. When Goddard's out, and it looks like Goddard's going to be out. And then the other one is if Jatavian Sanders is back this week, he was really getting going, with Bryce. And then unfortunately he got hurt very early in that Chiefs game. I do like the upside in a game that I expect Carolina to be down versus the Eagles in a very pass-heavy situation, and that's where Sanders is on the field, the most. Like where he sits a lot is, when they're trying to run the ball and do other stuff. When they're just straight throwing it, he's out there, and he's basically another wide receiver. So for 3,300, I don't hate that either. Any guys that you guys want to mention, like in kind of the cheap range, or?
I mean, I'm with you on Calcaterra, where they've given up the Panthers 7 touchdowns to tight ends over the last 6 weeks. So the fact that we're rolling the dice at such a low price, and it's like he gets a touchdown, and we pretty much were immediately justified. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that one if I'm trying to save a lot of money.
Yeah, if I'm trying to save some money, like I'm just scrolling through like down to the min price, and nothing feels good at all until I get to like the bare bones of like Chigakonkwo.
Yeah,
that's about it. And even that doesn't feel great, but at the very least, he's running 70% routes the last 2 games. So at least he's getting on the field a little more. He had that long touchdown against Houston, and then had 6 targets last week. I mean, there's at least there's a pulse and it's a good matchup.
Nope, I agree. All right, you want to build a few lineups, and then we'll get out of here. Hopefully, hope everybody wins some money, and then we'll all have a good weekend. Go Dogs!
Please. Go. I can't wait to see what Toilet Bowl Syracuse gets to play in.
What a win, though, man! What a way to end the season.
The Syracuse Fighting Kyle McCord. So he would fit well in the AFC North, wouldn't he?
That dude can sling it, man. That was a great game. Like, it really was. I watched.
I mean, there's no defense to be played anywhere in that game, but
I mean, that's pretty much every Miami game, though, it feels like. I can't speak for Syracuse, but for Miami, for sure.
Syracuse ain't great, but they've got like Marlo Wax is going to play, like be a top. I think he's going to be a day 2, like linebacker, like a off-ball linebacker. So I think he'll be like. He's about it. They put out some like Darius Williams went to Syracuse. They've Andre Cisco. They've had some guys, but their defense is not they're gonna have some wide receiver like Jackson Meeks was the transfer from Georgia. That is him and Trevor Pena have been their best 2 wide receivers, and Aronda Gadsden. Aronda Gadsden is, if you like athletic tight ends who used to play wide receiver, he's like 6'5", 220. Like Aronda Gadsden is like that dude should never block a day in his life and just play tight end.
All right, real quick, and then I want to do 2 lineups. I want to do one where we try to get both Barkley and Kamara, and then we'll build the other one organically. But real quickly for Juan, if he's still listening, sorry, Juan, it took so long to get to your question. He needs a wide receiver 2, a running back 2, and a flex. He's got Jennings, Worthy, Myers, Mooney, Westbrook-Ikini, the Seattle backfield. Breece Hall has been ruled out. So for me, it's Myers for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Is he good with that, Kev?
It would be Myers, Mooney, and probably
that's where I would lean.
Between Jalen Johnson going over Jennings, I would probably.
Well, we got to start a running back, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to start a running back for that?
The running back, yeah.
One of the Seattle running backs.
I mean, yeah.
But I'm saying, would you start Charbonnet or would you start Walker if both play? Because Charbonnet got the red zone touch last week, got the touchdown, even though he saw less.
Both play. I'm probably still starting Walker.
Okay. I think so, too.
I don't feel great about it, but...
There's a little more upside there, so I think that's where
I can't play Johnny Fortune Teller with trying to figure out how hurt Kenneth Walker is and what kind of workload Charbonnet would get with a hobbled Walker. I think that's a little tough, but I think I would just start Walker and pray gets the end zone.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's do the Barkley Kamara one first. So throw those expensive bastards in there. Do we go with Levis or O'Connell here? Because I think we need to go, obviously, with one of those. Which one do you like better?
I think I like the Raiders one.
Let's do it.
All right.
So do we want to try to get both Jacoby and
I mean, the hard part with Bowers is, well, if we just go cheap across the board at receiver, I think it can work.
I think we can do this.
That's what we're going to have to do if we got Bowers.
I think we can do this. Well, how about a little Rachaad White at flex or Shepard? We need to do one or two. To put Shepard at receiver or, in my opinion, Rachaad White at flex.
I go
we need some kind of Tampa in this if we're going to go.
I'd probably go Rachaad White.
I like that too. Me too. So let's do that.
Did I go by him? No, he's right there.
He's there.
So let's throw in the defense so we know it's. I know. Let's throw in the defense so we know exactly.
It's gonna be tough, but we'll get there.
We'll be able to figure it out. Bears or Bears or Browns. I'm with the Bears.
Keith and I fell on yesterday. Was the Bears.
So then, what does that leave? 4,200. So we can do definitely Elijah Moore, who we talked about. He's 4,800. That's probably the best target guy we're going to get. And then this is where
now it gets interesting.
We got to make our money. Now, obviously, if we say went with a Calvin Austin, we could potentially then spend up somewhere else on another position.
$300. I mean, we could. I don't know where we're really spending.
And I'm not even against if you guys don't want to double stack
Sorry, this is the first I saw. Josh Reynolds got claimed by the Jaguars. That's you're down bad.
I thought he's on IR. Wasn't he on IR or no?
He must have just come off it.
Wow, I did not see that either.
That's a new one for me.
Me too. Wow. Because I mean, I'm okay if y'all want to not play Jacoby. We can go a little cheaper at that other wide receiver, and that gives us a little bit more.
I had Wandale in there. Who was I putting? Oh, Moore.
Oh yeah, Moore. I mean, it's the same price, but
yeah.
That's why none of us noticed. We're like, no, math adds up.
The math was bad. The back of the napkin math was fine. Or let me. Yeah, it'd probably have to be like Calvin Austin, honestly, unless we switch something around.
That's what I'm saying. So if we don't want to double set like that, that would be the two options. And then again, if we want to upgrade one of the other positions, we can, because we could probably upgrade like more, potentially. Because what would that leave us, like 500? Oh no, it's only 300 more, right? I think.
Let me look here. Let me put in.
And also that low 4 range, we've got Slayton 43.
Because you could do like Keenan Allen. Well, it's all the same price though.
Yeah.
Thielen for another 300.
I was gonna say Thielen would be interesting. And then what does that leave us? 39.
Still
the same garbage.
Rough. Yeah, I don't feel
okay.
better
Let's just go with Austin. At least we're going with the home run, and maybe we get lucky, and it's a deal where
is there a defense we like more at 2,700?
Oh, that's a good point. There you go, Joe. I like where your head's at there.
I'm not sure that there actually is, but
there really isn't though.
There's
like Tennessee
right?
would be the only.
We were talking about the Saints as the next defense for me, really, that I like a lot more than the Bears.
But, yeah, then we're really scraping.
Yeah, now, no, you couldn't.
There.
No. I think you just go with Austin and we go with Myers and hope that Aiden balls. Are y'all okay with the White thing? We don't have to necessarily have a Bucks player.
I mean,
I just was thinking of correlation, but
I mean, obviously, if Irving's out, then no, there's no one else that I'm going to want more in that price range.
If Irving's out, I would be suggesting let's throw Tucker in maybe.
That's true. That's an interesting one. I mean, the other option,
because that gets pretty condensed as far as the rate. Because DJ Turner went on IR, so that shortens everything up for the Raiders.
Oh, I looked it up for my articles that were my double stack this week, Kevin. It's like, I think it's 60% of their pass attempts the last 3 weeks have gone to Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. Like, that is outrageous.
Yeah, that's what you want.
No, for sure. No, I'm with you. But
yeah. I mean, you can set your watch to who they're going to target.
Actually, I'm good with that.
What do we got?
I like this lineup.
I like it. And then if Irving were to play, I would probably, that might be.
This is assuming Irving plays anyway.
Like, then I might. I know we lose the correlation, but I might go Garendo at 5,400 or Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, yeah.
So I think both of those become interesting. If Bucky doesn't play, then Rachaad White, lock it in 100%.
I like it. No, I'm good with that.
I'd probably go Keenan just because we already have the Bears defense.
I like it.
I like that.
Yep. And again, if DJ Moore doesn't play, good God, Keenan Allen could end up getting a monster.
There's a lot of things that could potentially move around a little bit.
All right, let's where do you guys want to start for the second one? Then we'll get out of here.
Did you want to do the Levis?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Start with Levis, Ridley.
See where we end up.
Is that something where do we want to do Pollard with it? Do we think the Titans just roll?
Well, you can go again, or you could go with the hyphen king. But I like Ridley just because revenge game. We just saw Jerry Jeudy have the ultimate revenge game, so I'm riding with that.
Let me take a look here. Because you could still go. You could still throw.
You could potentially still
a Barkley in too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Or Kamara, like we could, yeah.
And then maybe get like the Drake London and
Hawkinson definitely if you're going to do that. Yep,
that's what I was going to say. Hawkinson with that. And then that, if we throw the Bears in on that too.
So do we want to go Garendo here and Shakir? Garendo and Shakir?
Or Slayton.
Here, I'm going to take the Bears out. If we're going to do Garendo, I would rather get a different defense, I feel like, in there.
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
No,
that kind of works against it.
I like that.
So, like, you could throw, I mean, we could just totally just gig a stack.
All in on the Titans. Believe
pretty much.
We could go to New Orleans and then put Kamara in there instead of Barkley.
Ooh.
They're 2,900, and that saves us 1,000 at back.
I'm intrigued by that. I like that. Yeah, that's probably going to be something.
And that gets us 6,100, and then
Fade
we could play really. You could play Jefferson on that too, and then still have 4,500 to go. Like who? I mean, if you really wanted to be crazy, you could do Travis Homer.
I mean, he's going to play either way, right? Like, I mean, because Johnson's out, it's probably not going to be much. What wide receivers are in that range?
You could still go Slayton, and I wouldn't feel bad about having the Saints D because it's like, because you still get sacks and picks, and that's what we care about.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I don't mind that. I'm trying to see.
There's some options down here.
What's the tight ends? That's what I was about to say. You read my mind.
I was seeing where Njoku was at, but
yeah,
I mean, still, you don't even have to play. I mean, you can.
Right, we're putting Jefferson in, so you can really kind of do whatever the hell you want here.
Why don't
Mike Evans and that gets 5,100 to where it gets.
I was going to say, why don't we put one of those mid-tier? Oh, no, I don't hate that at all. Okay. I was going to suggest a more of a mid-tier because we really like that 5K range, but that I don't mind at all.
Yeah,
Who is playing Hawkinson and Njoku together in a one?
Let's go. Double tight.
Vince might be because his Scott Fishbowl team apparently has Bowers, McBride, Janu Smith, and Njoku. Well done, Vince. Very well done.
I do it.
That is called tight end bully ball.
I like this lineup better than the first one.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this one. There's not a guy I don't like in this.
Guys, I'm going to play both in the $3 millionaire. Again, if we win, you won't ever see the three of us again. But no, I'm kidding. We will definitely take care of one of our listeners.
We'll wait to you from our super yachts.
Yeah. Well, there's good people on both sides, but unfortunately, you need to not be on water. You need to be on the boat to be, on the really good side. So, anything you guys want to plug or say before we get out of here?
I mean, I'm pretty good. I mean, of course, go find my Target article on Rotoballer. Put that out on Thursday. I mean, Jesus, he showed you his spreadsheet, people. So, like, this is coming from a man that he puts his time in. Okay,
prepared.
Good God, I love it.
I'm a sick individual. If you think that's good, wait till you see the year by year one I have. That's
yeah. I'm gonna need you to share that with me. Is what I'm gonna.
I was gonna say, Keith and I would love to see that
because we're nerds. We will spend hours just looking at that.
Yeah, I will.
That's what we get our kicks on. Joe, I know it's been a rough year for the Arizona Wildcats.
It's for everything. For everything. All of my sports teams have we've gone the full calendar year plus without any of my teams now making the playoffs. Twins were the last ones to do it. And yeah, my football team tanks. My basketball team has their first losing record, the Arizona Wildcats, in like 14 years or something. So it's just all downhill right now, but it's going to be fine. We're going to get a quarterback for the Giants. The Bulls will win the lottery this year and get Cooper Flag. It's all going to turn around. I'm feeling it.
And he'll turn the ball over with 5 seconds left and a chance to win the game. Sunday morning, come hang out with us, Fantasy and Frames. From 9 to 11, we answer your start-sit questions. I would ask Joe, but I know it's like 6 a.m. Kevin, if you're up at 9 a.m., you want to come hang out. I think Jorge's not going to be there this week, but I will definitely be there. I think Colby will be there, David. But if you guys get up a little early and you want to hang out, let me know. I'll send you the link. Come stop by. But if you are listening, come check us out.
Definitely do it. Yeah,
I will definitely at the very least be in the chat because I am also on Rotoballer answering questions in the Discord. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, hardest working man in show business. But all right. So again, check out all the amazing stuff on Fantasy and Frames. My DFS article will be out probably not tonight, first thing tomorrow morning. Check out Kevin's waiver wire article if you're still looking for some moves to make. That I believe that came out Tuesday, Kevin. But it is up on Fantasy and Frames, and we will see you guys